Hello and welcome to Felix's Space Time. In today's video we have an interview with Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. For those people who don't know you, can you explain a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, my name is Tim Dodd. I go by the name Everyday Astronaut, and I create educational videos about spaceflight. And my goal is to bring space down to Earth for everyday people. So I try and make rocket science a little bit easier to digest and hopefully fun to learn about at the same time.
Cool. Where did your interest in space come from?
That's actually a good question because when I was a kid, it wasn't my main love. I liked space stuff. I had, space shuttle Lego sets and I had, like a space shuttle poster on the wall and stuff, but it wasn't, like for instance, when I was really, when I was like 7 or 8, my favorite thing in the world was the Lamborghini Countach. And I could have drawn Lamborghinis perfectly. Like that was my thing was cars and airplanes. But I didn't love space flight that much. And then eventually it became music was my love. But then, yeah, I don't know. I had, I grew up with the space shuttle. Like the space shuttle was around my whole life. And I think the thing that made me love space flight in my adult years was actually watching live the last space shuttle launch. So STS-135 was the first time I'd ever like live stream or like watched a rocket launch live, on the internet. And as it took off, I literally was like, "Oh, great! Now what? Like, where? There's no space shuttle anymore. So what's next?" And it's that question of what's next that made me start just kind of reading more, and like it just slowly started building this new love for space. Because out of the questions of what's next and what happened to the space shuttle, this whole new curiosity sparked, and just this longing for the future. So yeah, I think it's actually ironically, it's the cancellation of the space shuttle program that made me fall back in love with space as an adult.
What made you want to bring your interest in space to YouTube?
I had a few different people so I was originally doing photographs on Instagram. So I had this, you've probably seen some pictures of me in an old Russian flight suit.
Yeah.
It was kind of a joke. And it was sort of this like art project, but I was trying to explain a lot of cool things that I was learning about space flight, and especially like space flight history, just some of these, cool little facts and tidbits. And I had a few different people. My brother-in-law was telling me, "Dude, you should try YouTube." And also Jamie Higginbotham and the crew from there's an awesome YouTube channel called Tomorrow, TMRO, and they've been doing basically they used to be called Space Vidcasts, and they've been doing what I'm trying to do now, which is cover live rocket launches often. They were doing that better than anybody like 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. So between Jamie and Carrie Ann and the Tomorrow crew and my brother-in-law, they're all kind of telling me that I should try YouTube. And I was mortified. I didn't want to do YouTube. I had done, the Instagram was like where my following was at the time. Back in the day when I was a lot younger, I had shot a lot of wedding videos. So I was like mortified of videography. I didn't think I wanted to make videos because they're really hard to do. To make a good video, as you know, takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to edit and do all the things. And I was like, I am never making videos because it's too much work, and I'm too much of a perfectionist. I always want them to be as too good, or better than my capabilities are. So yeah, but I got talked into doing it, and I guess I'm glad I took the plunge.
Your YouTube channel shows an extensive knowledge of space. Where did you learn about it all?
Kerbal, Kerbal Space Program. Literally, like I think my understanding of the physics is literally purely from playing Kerbal Space Program. I know that sounds just ridiculous, but it's because it's such an intuitive way to actually learn the concepts. You start learning about thrust to weight ratio and delta V and aerodynamic effects. Like it's such a perfect tool to learn and understand physics. Obviously, it's not a perfect simulation of physics, but as far as an illustration of the physics that we all live in, it's just fantastic. So I have to attribute a lot of my knowledge of how things work to Kerbal Space Program. Other than that, just a lot of like I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Pre-pandemic, I was driving and traveling a lot. So I listened to a lot of audiobooks, a lot of podcasts. And most of my knowledge came from that and Scott Manley on YouTube and just kind of some other, yeah, I don't know, just documentaries and just reading a bunch, I guess, reading even Reddit and r/SpaceX taught me a ton back in the day. Um, yeah, I don't know, just reading, just carving my own path, I guess, like a lot of people do these days.
Can you tell me a bit more about your photography?
Yeah. So I guess so I when I grew up, I always thought I'd be an artist growing up. Or when I was young, I always wanted to be an artist. I would draw literally every day, take a drawing pad with me everywhere I went. But um I even went to college to try to do art. And I honestly found it to be I don't know, having someone try to teach you how to do art just felt weird to me. I was like, I can do this for free at home. Like I can just draw. Like I can just keep drawing for free. I don't have to pay, $8,000 a year or whatever it was. And I kind of lost. I hadn't found a new medium, and I was always obsessed. Like as an artist, I always wanted to do realism. I always wanted to draw things exactly as they're seen. And at one point, I just realized that photography is the ultimate form of capturing something exactly as it is. And as a matter of fact, what I like about it is that it would kind of stop time. It's like this time machine. A photograph is like a time machine. It's capturing this one exact moment in time for just a very brief second, and you get to be the storyteller of that moment. And so I don't know. I always liked that about photography. It's just always this challenge of how do you convey the emotions of the scene of this moment to your audience. And so it was, I don't know. I once I picked up a camera, I just fell in love with it. Yeah, and there's something about the mechanics of a camera too. The actual feeling. The very first camera I ever took pictures on was one of my dad's film SLR camera. It was a Pentax, and the physical like clicking of the way you advance the film and all of the it just felt really tactical and really I loved the feeling of it, the mechanics of it, and yeah, I don't know. I think it was like almost the physics of the photography is what I fell in love with, along with like trying to capture a moment.
It
Yeah.
says in your YouTube bio you dropped out of college. What was the reason for that?
Man, I was not ready. I wasn't ready to learn. Um, I think in order to learn, you have to be curious and you have to want to learn. It's a shame because I really wish that I had stuck through college. I really do. I think honestly, a lot of things would have been easier because I've had to learn a lot of things the hard way. I've had to, work a lot harder. I think to be able to, especially to be taken seriously with someone that's, especially say in the journalism world, right? If you're a self-made journalist or people don't take your credentials seriously because they're like, oh, who's this guy? I think in a lot of ways a traditional route is would have been um, easier for me at the beginning especially. But I didn't do well in school. I flunked out. Even I full blown flunked out of college. Had academic suspension and everything, which was really hard for me. Like I was extremely ashamed of that. I was really heartbroken by it. I remember the day that I left, that I full blown like walked off campus for the last time. Basically, I was in tears and like seeing people walk by me and thinking every single person that I'm walking by is smarter than me. Every single one of these people that I'm seeing is smarter than me and can do something I can't do. And it broke my heart. It really was upsetting to me. And I was really depressed about it for a while. But it was one of those moments when someone says you can't do something is oftentimes what makes me want to do something even more or like prove them wrong. And I remember at the time, my attitude, or a lot of people were thinking, well, you can't really have a career if you don't go to college. So for me, it was like, I want to prove that I can have a career, despite me not being able to succeed academically at this time. Like, I think if I had gone to college in my late 20s, probably I would have loved it. But when I was, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old Tim, just wasn't ready to learn. And I was doing my own stuff. Like I was still working quite a bit and writing a lot of, like I was playing a lot of music at the time. Maybe that was the distraction from school, but um, I really wish that, it would have been a lot easier, I think, if I had been able to stick it out.
What do you hope to achieve with your YouTube channel?
Sorry, what was it?
What do you hope to achieve with your YouTube channel?
What do I hope to achieve? Inspiration, man. Like I just want to inspire and teach people and get people excited about what's going on and make it understandable for them. There's a lot of great information out there. Trust me. Like I am reliant at this point on a lot of really talented channels, a lot of really talented individuals that do an amazing job of teaching stuff. Again, I've mentioned Scott Manley already, and like the crew with NSF, the NASA spaceflight crew. There's people out there doing just incredible work, and I'm forever grateful for them because I'm learning a lot from them. But for me, my goal has always been is to not necessarily always pander to the audience that already knows, but it's to help find a new audience and help bring new people in, because it's intimidating at first. I have people ask me all the time, like especially right now I'm in South Texas. I'm right around where Starship is being built, and I'll strike up conversations with people while I'm getting food or something and be like, so what do you think is have you been down to Boca Chica to check out the rocket yet? And they'll be like, yeah, what is that? They have no idea. And they have no idea that there's even a rocket. There's a lot of people here that are literally 6 miles, 10 kilometers from a futuristic Martian, eventually a Martian capable rocket, and they have no idea. And so my goal is to help them learn why it's exciting, not just tell them it's exciting. Like, oh, it's crazy. It goes up and it falls down and it blows up sometimes, like I want to teach them that the reason it's exciting is because they're using methalox, and it's, a full flow stage combustion cycle Raptor engine. It's the most, advanced rocket engine in the world. Like I want to teach them the things that will help you get excited, because I really do think if you learn, that's the way you're going to get most excited. And it's not going to be forced learning. That's kind of what we were talking about a second ago. But I just find that for me, with my goal for YouTube is to break down as complex topics and make them not intimidating. And so for the funny thing about that is a lot of times to me that takes a long time. If I'm going to tell you about the full flow stage combustion cycle engine, I can't just do it in a 5-minute video. There's so much context because it is, after all, rocket science. So I feel like it's always been people would normally avoid making a really long video because they're afraid people won't watch it, right? That's kind of been the fear of YouTube. It used to be, make a 3-minute video. If it's over 3 minutes, no one will watch it. My first video was 2 minutes and 50 seconds because I was afraid no one would watch a 3-minute video. But for me, I realized that I don't want to leave people with more questions than they had answers. And I want to make sure they have the context to actually learn what I'm talking about. So, for me, it was just like a matter of, okay, let's start on page 1. I want to be able to show this to my parents who are not spaceflight enthusiasts, or my niece or my nephews, and say, watch this. Let me know what questions you have. And hopefully we get all the way through and we answer the root question by the end of the video, So again, if you are an expert at this stuff, there's a lot of the community's becoming insanely well-informed. My videos, I think they might outgrow them, and that's perfectly fine by me. That's actually my goal, is to have people outgrow my videos and want to seek more advanced, more nuanced knowledge.
Did you sign up for the Inspiration 4 mission, and why not?
Inspiration 4, I did not, actually. A few reasons. Well, first off, so with that one only being, really 2 people, I don't think I'm the most qualified. I don't think I'm the most deserving of that. I think there's a lot of people out there that could tell a much more compelling story than me. A lot of people that would benefit more from it. A lot of people, and I know a lot of people right now are laughing like, Tim, you're just scared to go to space. Yes, that's true. But honestly, I would actually fly on a Dragon capsule, with little hesitation. And I feel like I probably will someday, frankly. I feel like at this point, because commercialization is becoming so common, I feel like a lot of us will probably fly in space. But I didn't think I was ready time-wise. I mean, I know this sounds ridiculous. I've got more important things going on, but I'm spending quite literally every minute of my life right now trying to capture Starship and preserve the beginning steps of Starship. Like that's my number one goal right now, and I don't want to be distracted by that. I know that sounds just ridiculous, but this is like, this right now is, if there had been someone out there capturing better video and, a whole top of the line film crew filming the Wright brothers when they were making their first plane, like this is important stuff. There's only going to be one little bit of time in the world when Starship is first being developed. In a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, we'll take this moment for granted. So for me, this is my focus. I want to preserve this history. And I feel like, frankly, inspiration before for me would have been a distraction. And again, I know a lot of people probably think that's an excuse, but I that genuinely is the reason.
Do you think we're now seeing a resurgence in the interest in space travel?
Oh, big time, big time. Like, absolutely, no doubt. I think specifically SpaceX, I think, can be attributed to a lot of that new excitement and new energy. Because of the things they've been able to accomplish and how they've been able to inspire the public with it. Specifically Falcon Heavy was a very big moment for a lot of people that started just paying attention for the first time in recent history, like being like, oh, that's cool. They put a car in space. Like, what's that about? And then they start learning and they see the boosters landing side by side and, they get hooked. And I think, realistically, I do think the future is people are getting more and more excited. Like all ships are rising with the tide. The pie is growing bigger. There are more enthusiasts. And I think Kennedy Space Center's visitor complex had the most pre-pandemic. I think it's 2019. They had a record-setting year by like 30% or something ridiculous. Like they had the most people ever. Granted, they weren't really around during the original Apollo era. The visitor complex wasn't, but still, that's telling you something. That's telling you there's more and more enthusiasts and people getting excited and traveling. And, just look at all the YouTube channels that are related to space. They're all growing very quickly. It's definitely growing. Don't you think so? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, quite a lot of people, more people are, yeah.
And I feel like even like my friends and family are starting to pay more attention, where previously they maybe hadn't paid any attention at all. So I think it's becoming more and more in the public eye too.
What's your plans for the future? Where would you like to see yourself in, say, 5-10 years?
Oh man, I can't hardly tell you what my plans are next week, let alone 5 years from now. I've found myself to just laugh when I look back at what I wanted to do 5 years from now and what I thought my biggest things in the world would be 5 years from then, like today. I would be laughing at them. I think 5 years ago now, my biggest goal was to write, to have an illustrated children's book, which is cool. I still think that'd be cool and fun, but like that was the top of my mountain that I wanted to climb 5 years ago as an Instagrammer making pictures of myself in a spacesuit. The ultimate goal was like a children's book. Like that was the peak of Everyday Astronaut, would have been a children's book. I laugh now at, I just don't see that as having that big of effect on people. Like, yeah, and again, it might be a good idea in the future someday, but to think that would be like the pinnacle of Everyday Astronaut, I think would be, I think I was short-sighted a little bit. And now I think 5 years from now, oh man, I honestly I don't even know. Okay, let me make a bold prediction. 5 years from now, I want to be covering up close and personal as best I can with the best quality of footage and explaining how humans are about to return to the moon. I think 5 years from now, 2026 is a real good timeline for humans walking on the moon again for the first time in over 50 years. And I want to be the Walter Cronkite. I don't know. I'm even too young really for Walter Cronkite. So you obviously are. But Walter Cronkite was kind of considered by like my parents and the people that watched the Apollo program to be the person that they would watch to help explain what was going on during the Apollo program. He was a CBS correspondent. I want to be the Walter Cronkite of the 21st century. Like when we're going back to the moon, I want to be the person that people tune into to learn all the little nuances and all the little details. That's I'd say that's my goal in 5 to 10 years.
Wow. That's all the questions I've got for you today, and there's some questions that people have asked on Twitter they'd like to ask you.
That'd be great.
Would you rather land on the moon with the national team's lander or with the Dynetics lander, and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I like that they didn't include Starship because I feel like Starship would just be kind of it's just so big, like it's so, and obviously I'm a pretty big SpaceX fan, but I'm also a very big fan of especially the BE-7 engine from Blue Origin is very cool. So I'm pretty fond of that. But I like that for something is very appealing to me about that Dynetics lander. I like that it's so low slung. It's really easy to egress. It's really easy to get out of. That just seems really cool to me. I like its unique design. Um, the blue lander is great because it's basically a huge, massively scaled up version of the original, Apollo lunar lander. But it also has like a huge ladder. I'd have to go with the Dynetics lander. But what about you? What would you choose between those two, Felix?
I'd choose the Dynetics lander.
Yeah, for what reason?
Um, like you said, the design of it, though, yeah,
It's cool.
it looks like it would withstand landing on
Oh,
the moon.
yeah, it looks super stable. Like it looks like something, and maybe this is a bad sign, but it definitely looks like something I would make in Kerbal. Nice and low, and very hard to tip over and easy to get in and out of. So I got to give props to that team. I think that's a really cool design.
What are the chances of SN11 SN11 landing
Mm.
and staying there?
And staying there. Landing with landing legs not being completely crushed out from underneath it. I think they're getting really close. I mean, I feel like each time they are learning a little bit of something, tweaking a little something here and there. Obviously, I'm having a little bit more concerns about the header tanks. The header tanks seem to be causing quite a few problems. Um, and at first, even just last week, I do a podcast every week where we do a why don't they just? And a lot of people are asking why aren't they doing like a cylinder, or something like a piston to make sure that you don't have any air bubbles in the header tank or something. And I was laughing at that last week. And then I saw someone's design on Twitter and I was like, oh, it's actually pretty cool. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some hardware changes in the header tanks. Maybe not by 11, but maybe by 15 or 16, 17. I think once it's all put together like that, once they've solved all those hardware issues, because they're doing a lot of software tweaking at this point, but software can only get you so much. I think 11, there's a good chance to me though that 11 stands and lives to tell about it again. I still don't think it'll be pretty, and I still think there might be some issues. But I think it'll still physically land in one piece enough to be able to totally detank, and be picked up or moved away from the launch pad. But I want to know your thoughts. What about you?
I'm not sure really. I saw a design on Twitter as well of had these things moving out of the tank, these metal plates to stop the air bubbles forming.
Huh.
So if they did something like that added so that all the air bubbles wouldn't go in there, I think it could land and tell the tale.
Yeah. I mean, what's your confidence? Are you 60% confident or 70? How confident are you that 11 will stand and live to tell about it?
50-50.
50-50 still. I think I was a little bit higher for 10. I think I was 75% that 10 would land, and it did kind of. But I think I'm back down to about 65% for 11 that'll land in one piece and walk away.
Technically, all the starships have landed, just not all in one piece.
Yes, exactly. Well, and they even do land in one piece, but just very briefly. Very, very briefly in one piece. Yeah.
Will you continue to focus on rockets and vehicles, or will you expand to other space hardware such as habitats, telescopes, and interplanetary space probes?
Oh man. I'm very fond of rockets for whatever reason. They're just what catch my attention the most. I have a hard time. I don't know what it is. There's just something not as compelling to me about and it's really sad. It's unfortunate because I think it's some of the coolest engineering goes into the things that are not in low Earth, not trying to get us off Earth. But for some reason, the things that get us off of Earth are some of my favorite things, and they're what I get most excited about. I have to just, the things that get me most excited are the things that I want to talk about, and I'm unapologetically doing it that way. Like I want to talk about a lot of other things, but I also get really excited about a certain topic and just can't. I just push everything else aside. Like for right now, I'm doing a really big deep dive and going to even reshoot it now on why Starship is belly flopping, because there's a lot of great questions about the belly flop maneuver. So I'm breaking down all the physics of the terminal velocity, suicide burns, and thrust to weight ratio, and all the different things. Yeah, I can't help it. Like I want to explain that because there's a lot of fascinating decision making that SpaceX has done for this. So yeah, I I want to talk about that stuff. I'll have to be very compelled. Like I'll have to be extremely excited and be like, check this out. Like there's this whole totally new idea, or you won't believe how they're doing. And it's not the clickbait aspect. It's just that I just get excited about like new concepts and things like that. So yes, I would love to cover things outside of rockets and more just general space flight and even the human aspect of it. But the team will have to expand in order for me to find any time to do that.
Everything SpaceX asks, what was that light bulb moment that inspired you to move to covering spaceflight full time?
What was the light bulb moment that had me that? So the half of it was, at the time I was doing a lot of weddings. I was shooting. In my career as a photographer, I shot 150 weddings. I was doing some commercial work and other portrait work, but I didn't love it anymore. I was really falling out of love with the monotony of like the career as a photographer, and I was doing the everyday astronaut stuff kind of as an outlet, as an art project and for fun. And the light bulb moment for me was, I when I first started making YouTube videos, I was actually, I almost threw the towel in because I spent like 2 weeks making a video, and it did really bad. I'm like, I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna make a big explanation on why SpaceX doesn't use parachutes. It was kind of my first like, as most people would know my videos, it was like my first everyday astronaut style video where I'm going to break down a topic and teach you why SpaceX does not use parachutes. And I worked really hard on it. I worked my butt off. And 2 weeks for me compared to like an Instagram post, which would maybe take like 2 to 4 hours, to spend 2 weeks on a video was like a big sacrifice to me. And I put it out there and it flopped. Maybe had like 800 views or something in a week. And I was extremely upset because I spent all this time. I was expecting this big payoff, because some of my other videos on YouTube were doing pretty well, like 10,000 views, 20,000 views. And I was like, YouTube, I was sitting there going, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to make it happen. So I put that video out there. It did terrible at first. And then it did something that Instagram would never do for me, at least back in the day. It grew on its own. The video, because of the YouTube algorithm, like it sat there for almost 2 months, and all of a sudden it just goes, started getting recommended. And YouTube did the work for me. It actually found me an audience. It put it out there, and all of a sudden it went from literally like 2,000 views in 2 months to like 70,000 views in a couple days. And I was like, oh my, boom, that was major ding light bulb moment was, oh, I don't have to find the audience like on Instagram. I had to find, I had to have Reddit posts, and I had to like, make a community and try to get people to find me on Instagram. But YouTube, it was the other way around. Like if you put a good product out there, and if people are actually watching it and getting the answer that they're looking for, guess what? YouTube's going to find more people with that same question. And that was the moment of like, oh, that works. Interesting. So then I just kept making more YouTube videos.
Jordan M4C asks, do you know any information surrounding the disappearance of Gertrude?
Disappearance of Gertrude. I don't even. Sorry, what's Gertrude?
The Neuralink pig.
Oh, no, I don't know anything about the disappearance of Gertrude. I don't. Yeah, I didn't. Is there a controversy? Is there something we should be stirring up right now? Because I don't. Yeah, I don't even know. Unfortunately, I have no insight to that.
He also asks if the Neuralink or SpaceX team had eaten it.
I hope not. Poor Gertrude. I don't know, but let's just have a moment of silence for Gertrude and just hope that Gertrude's okay.
Cosmic Adam asks, you've mentioned that a gig with a spaceflight company was out of the question. If one of these companies offered you a position that allowed you to continue your current work, would you take it?
I would absolutely work as a consultant for a company. If a company wanted to, have me work alongside their communications team to help explain the things that they're working on, I would love that. I would love nothing more than that, because it's hard, and it's hard to understand the language, know what works and what doesn't work. And I've read plenty of thousands and thousands of comments of what works and what doesn't work, from my own experiences that I take from. And I love, I thrive off feedback. So I would love nothing more than to help another company tailor their tone and their information, and how they present their webcasts, or their especially like if they have a big product release or something like that. I would love help shape that, if but yeah, it would definitely have to be like a contract or some kind of, outside work. But I would work with a company in that regard. But no, I'm very, very, very happy doing what I'm doing now, and I love it. And I can't really imagine, doing it any other way.
Why the change in heart for traveling to on the Starship Dear Moon mission?
I don't know. Maybe it's seeing it, even though I've only seen it blow up pretty much. That should have changed my heart the opposite way and made me never want to ride Starship. I don't know. It's becoming like almost normal. Like I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing the acceleration of this program, literally right out the back here. And I'm seeing that this is going to be a solvable problem. I understand that this is like a big chunk they're trying to bite off. And I really do think they're going to figure it out. And Starship's like big enough that you're not just in a tin can, like it's Starship with 1,000 cubic meters with a dozen people on it for a week will be, that's huge. That's a big, you would have basically your own house, like amount of room per person. Like a small house, like it's 1,000 cubic meters is huge. So, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know what happened, but I started actually thinking about what it'd be like to be going around the moon. And like I actually start kind of crying a little bit. Like I've had some emotional experiences just looking up at the moon and being like, can you imagine flying around that? And I guess I hadn't really let myself indulge in that too much in the past. It just seemed so fantastical, or seemed so impossible, that I don't think I had actually considered the option of, what if you flew around the moon? And for whatever reason, just fairly recently, I started letting myself imagine. Actually, one of the times was I was shooting this video, like a time lapse video of the moon going right over Starship. And I don't know what it was about that. I think it was SN9. Something just kind of like clicked, and I was like, man, can you imagine riding in that vehicle and going around the moon? And that was one of the first times that I think I really let myself think about it. And because of that, it became more of a reality to me, and something that I actually wanted to maybe think about seriously. I'm still very hesitant. Like if I got asked, I would actually still be extremely scared. And I can't promise that I'd actually end up riding the rocket, but it did become more of a reality to me. Would you go on Dear Moon?
I've actually signed up.
Okay, you have as well.
Yeah, at the bottom of the page, or in like the rules and stuff, it doesn't say there's an age or anything.
That would be crazy. Can you imagine being the youngest person in space, and then of course the youngest person to fly around the moon?
Yeah,
that'd be pretty amazing. Obviously, like next level amazing. Yeah.
That's all the questions I've got for you today. Thank you very, very much for coming on here and answering these questions.
Of course, Felix. It was my pleasure, and I'm really proud of your YouTube channel. You've done a fantastic job already, and I hope that you keep it up, because there's a lot more people to talk about and a lot of cool things to get out of people. So you're doing a great job, and definitely keep it up.
Thank you very much. It was lovely talking to you.
You too, Felix. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Coming up, we have an interview with another Inspiration 4 entrant and a fundraiser. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.